Okay, so we are live. This is the first session of as of yet untitled game. I think that's going to depend on what you guys name the detective agency. I don't know if you guys came up with a name for it.
I suggested, but maybe only to you, that we call ourselves the Four Dagger Corps.
For Dagger core.
All right. Yay or nay, Four Dagger Core.
Can I ask, was there a reason behind that, or you just like it?
Just occurred to me when he said to come up with a suggested name. No, I have no particular attachment to it if someone has a better one.
It was that or hentai group, we didn't really have much choice.
No, that sounds good to me.
The roaming tentacle.
That's the bar we go to.
I'm writing that down. I'm using that. That's going to come up somewhere. All right. So, the first session of Four Dagger Core. To kind of set the scene, imagine that this is like the start of a movie. We're kind of panning around the area. So with this being Lower Dura, you guys are within one of the large towers that make up Lower Dura. Now, since you guys are on the lower tier, the tower base is unthinkably large. If in real world terms, it would cover probably 3-4 mile radius. It is immense. But within, it's almost like a massive, like, indoor mall in a sense. Everything is pretty much made of stone. Every so often, there are massive pillars that go up into the ceiling, which is probably about 6 to 8 stories up. There is a ceiling because there are multiple levels. But even within those levels, within those 8 stories, that space is used, and along the walls and within the midst of this tower, it's almost like a city within a tower. Very kind of Fifth Element feel to it as well, because of the way that this tower was constructed, and because of the purpose of this area being Lower Dura and largely being a warehouse district, but with also some residential facilities in there, and because of the ever-changing nature of who is in control of the properties and what people do with it, there are a lot of makeshift elements that have been built up around. So there are a number of makeshift stairways and ladders going up the different stories into some of the dwellings or some of the warehouses that have been built up. Some of them have roads that crisscross throughout the sky in the air, crossing to different areas of different walls or different buildings that are set up to facilitate foot traffic. Another thing that is ever present is the sound of construction. Because of the nature of these towers, it is constantly in need of repair. There's always something that is needing to be addressed in order to make sure that these towers do not fall. And especially because you're in the lower section of the tower, it bears the most weight. And so there are a lot of things that can go wrong. Water comes that is pumped up to the higher parts of the tower, sometimes runs down and creates areas of erosion. And so there's always some noise of construction going on, especially during the daytime hours. Uh, it's just a matter of where it is. Sometimes the construction happens closer to your buildings or dwellings. Sometimes it's happening farther away, but it's always kind of in the background. You're always hearing it. Additionally, because you guys are in such a self-contained sort of city within a city in this area, it has its own kind of inside weather. And because it is, although it is wealthier than some of the other lower districts, just because of the nature of its position being relatively close to the docks of Sharn, and because it is used as a warehouse district, it has some more ventilation available, but it is still always hot, humid, and muggy within this place. So that is kind of setting the scene as what this place looks like. And there's constantly foot traffic, people going back and forth. Some people are hawking wares on the sides in their own makeshift kind of merchant mart sort of place areas, and haggling back and forth. There's also dark alleys where some other business may be going on, some of the seedier sorts of transactions taking place, as well as a presence of guards kind of walking back and forth, patrolling at times. Although everybody knows that these guards will easily turn a blind eye to much of the things that are going on, either because they're on somebody's payroll or because they're too close to retirement and don't want to deal with the shit.
2 days. 2 days from retirement.
Right.
All of them.
And so that is when we come to your building. Your building is kind of an interesting setup where it is kind of like in its own corner of this city. It's a little bit off the beaten track. You kind of have to cross an alley through an alley behind another building, and then you'll find yours sort of close to one of the supporting outer walls. It is also a relatively small building, unlike some of the other areas where there's like this use of vertical sort of building things up, be able to maximize space. Your property is kind of its own, just kind of one-story building, and it is very rickety. It's well worn, but you do your best to keep a professional-looking sign advertising the business that you're in and the name of your agency. As we then go into the building, you guys are welcome to describe what the interior looks like. The one thing is that wherever you keep the mail, there are several notices for late payments of rent that have been piling up from Ned Doolin, who acts as the property manager on behalf of Silira Ertain, who is the actual owner of the property. And so Ned acts as the liaison collecting rent and supposedly acting as a property manager who should be in charge of fixing things, although the Ertains are notorious slumlords, and you're lucky to get any kind of contact with him if anything breaks or needs repair. The only time you ever hear from him is when he's demanding payment for rent. Currently, the most recent notice for rent is 400 Galifar, and that is for 3 months rent plus a 100 Galifar late fee that has been tacked on top of it. And it is indicating that it is in your best interest to pay, or else things are going to go bad. He keeps it vague, but knowing the way that the Urtanes kind of how they do, you can expect that next time they're going to be coming with enforcers and maybe starting to try and break some kneecaps in order to accumulate that money. And you may also find your possessions all stolen and the building vacated as well.
Well, then I'm definitely taking my bedroll wherever I go.
So that is the setup. So I will allow each of you to kind of take an opportunity to describe a section of the agency that is maybe meaningful to you, whether it's your personal work area or a room that you maintain within. It is a one-story. So there is no upstairs. There is a small attic that can act as a storage space. There is no basement, but there are several rooms, though small that they may be. And then so go ahead and introduce your character. Provide us with a description of who they are, what they look like, what they may be doing currently at the agency, and maybe what their personal area of significance looks like.
What time of day is it that we're starting?
Oh, so it is probably about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And you know this because there is no real access to sunlight. There's no easy way to tell the time outside of the regular chimes that go off throughout the tower, kind of marking the hours. Otherwise, people would have a very big difficulty knowing what time it is, because the ever-burning torches that typically light much of the inner tower are always burning. They're always at the same intensity. And so you guys do not have the benefit of having natural light cycles to be able to tell night or day outside of when these regular chimes go off, which are similar to church bell towers.
So my character's name is Declan Sharp. He mostly goes by Sharp, his last name. He's blonde. He's probably about 30 years old, but he looks substantially older than that. He may have been more handsome before he started drinking as heavily as he does, but he's been living life pretty hard for the past several years, since even before this agency was founded. And it's begun to hit him. He usually wears scale mail with a brown leather tunic over it. He has an obsession with this. He at one point came into a little bit of money, and so he splurged and bought a 4 gold piece hat. And God damn it, he is going to keep that hat till the day he dies. So he goes out of his way to protect the hat. He would rather take a wound himself than let somebody hit the hat. Since it's 3 in the afternoon, he's probably up by now. He's cleaning his armor because there would inevitably there would be vomit on it from the night before. He's hoping it's his, but you can never really tell since he probably was very drunk that night. And with all these bills piling up, he's probably hoping some client will wander in, or at least that one of the 2 twins who do tend, I assume, to be a little more on the ball than he is earlier in the day will have drummed something up that maybe will offer them enough coin to pay off these bills that are piling up. He looks like I have a picture of him. Let's put it in the chat. This is him without the hat.
Shit, I got spicy pickle juice in my eye. Oh, it sucks. So Declan, what is your passive insight, investigation, and perception?
Oh, mine.
Yeah.
It is passive insight is 11. Passive investigation is 13. And you want my passive deception?
Perception.
Oh, perception. Yeah. So perception is 13.
Okay. All right. Who wants to introduce their character next? All right, let's go with Josh.
I'm all alone. No one else is in the agency at the moment. They've all fled.
We locked the door so you can't leave. Okay, so I'm Silhana, and I am a half-elf female monk, because what else would I be? And I am currently in black shorts, a crop top, flats, my cloak's hanging on the door. And at the moment, I'm just kind of talking to whoever is going to listen to my stories. I'm just chilling. I got nothing else to do here. I don't know.
So you're more hanging out just outside the building, talking to people who are passing by, or
I'm just
chit-chatting.
Chit-chatting, hanging out, seeing what's going on. I'm pretty cool with everything.
I didn't say, but I'm a warlock.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, and then what is your passive insight, investigation, and perception?
Insight is 12, investigation is 10, and perception is 12.
Oh, I'm sorry. My passive perception. I was reading performance for some reason. My passive perception is 9.
Oh, good.
All right, Peter or Ryan?
I'll go next to follow on from Josh. My character's name is Varus. He is, likewise, he's a mark of detection, half-elf from House Madani. Although he tends to keep his mark quite well covered. Guys that work for the agency, have probably seen it once it's been locked up for the night. It's on the back of his right shoulder. But if they're out in public, he keeps it covered very well. Tends to wear studded leather armor and carries around a strange-looking warhammer that he rarely uses. But on the occasion that he does, he doesn't use it like normal people would use a warhammer. He tends to be more precise than brute force with it. He is probably right now. I like to think he has a little kind of workstation set up in the attic away from everybody else, where he can go when Declan's drunk and making a lot of noise and other people are being annoying to work. In terms of his role in the agency, his specialty is knowing when other people are lying and kind of ferreting out lies. He's much better at reading people than he is at finding clues hidden in a room, for example. I have a picture of him and the strange-looking warhammer that I will share as soon as I can work out how to do that on this app. Ah, perfect. Like that.
I'll make a picture later. I feel bad now.
Cool.
Nice.
Very cool. I kind of imagine if you're using your warhammer kind of in that strange way, maybe it has kind of a flexible handle that is very difficult to master, but when you do, it allows you to kind of redirect the force in ways that people have a lot more difficulty avoiding.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. He also has, I think I gave him proficiency in medicine just to sort of show that he has a knowledge of the human body, which is kind of how I see his sneak attack working. He deals extra damage because he knows where to hit you with the big spike on the back of the warhammer. You don't need to hit somebody hard if you can bury a spike into the carotid artery.
Right.
Yeah, he's an
And then-
inquisitive rogue.
And then what is your passive insight, investigation, and perception?
Insight is... So insight and perception are both 17. And investigation is 12.
Did you take the observant feat?
No, I have expertise in insight and perception.
Ah, that's it.
I thought it fit well for the character, so I'd pick up those two. I think the only other thing worth noting is that it's probably fairly obvious that him and Josh's character are twins.
Yeah, pretty close.
Well, certainly you would look at them and know they were related.
Is your character a rogue?
Yes.
I got green eyes and brown hair, and my dragon mark's on the side right here of my stomach, and I do nothing to hide it at all.
I don't know why, but I figured, Josh, you were going to go with the tramp stamp dragon mark.
The thought did cross my mind. However, the roving tentacle was already there.
All right. And then we have Peter's character.
So Joe Farr is probably in the back where they have set up some sort of desk that probably used to be the closet. He's just sitting there. It's 3 o'clock. He's been here since 3 a.m. because you get an early start. That's how you get things done. So he is older, probably early 50s, gray hair, blue eyes, average height. He's a human. He would be going over these late notices and checking them and probably bringing them up to Sharp right when he wakes up and letting him know that they are due and when they're due and how much it is and when he's going to pay them, because it's very important to get this done. What else? He used to be part of the City Watch, but he is not anymore. Yeah, I'm not sure how he got hired here. I think he just basically showed up enough times that Sharp just couldn't get rid of him. It's not sure if he sleeps here at night or not, but he may go home, wherever that is. But he's always here in the morning when everybody's there.
Okay.
Wide awake, ready to go. His outfit is just a regular commoner's clothes, but it's usually well kept. His desk is neat and orderly with his little ink pen and parchment, and he has everything in a particular order and constantly adjusts and fixes them so that they are in that order at all times.
Okay. And what is your passive insight, investigation, and perception? Insight
13, investigation 14, perception 13. Yeah, he's a ranger.
Okay. So, Joe Farr, you mentioned that you would be going to talk to Declan about the late notices. So why don't we start there?
Yeah, before we begin, as soon as he walks into the room carrying a piece of paper, like I don't know that we owe this money. It's probably like the 5th late notice. But in my head, I would almost certainly think, and anybody looking at my face would know that I'm thinking, oh, great, a morning person. Every day I think about firing Joe Farr.
Out of character has to be done like a noir narrative.
I like to feel like you've actually fired him a couple of times and just keeps showing up.
We've received another notice from Neb.
Well, have we received hundreds of gold pieces to pay those notices?
No, should I be looking for them?
Yeah, I think we should all be looking for that.
It's 300 plus 100 interest or something he's added.
Well,
So that would be 400 gold pieces.
so you used to be city guard. Is it against the law for me to just use magic to make him go away?
Yes. But we still owe 400 gold pieces.
Well, I'll kick in my 2.
That would be 398 left.
So, yeah, go out front and look for 398 gold pieces, or better yet, a client willing to pay us 398 gold pieces.
Yes. Okay, I will do that. And he goes back and straightens his desk again and gets his cloak and heads out to look for 398 gold pieces.
I will, after I finish cleaning my armor, put it on and go out to my desk where I assume the mail inbox is, and sit down, inadvertently kicking the box that holds up one corner of my desk up, causing the whole thing to tip. And then the mail slides off the desk and all over the floor. And I think about fixing the desk, but then decide it's not even worth it. So I just get up and wander outside.
How loud is this when you do that?
I mean, it wouldn't be like super loud, but you would definitely hear a bump. And it's almost certainly not the first time it's happened, so you would know what the noise was.
I pause and resist the urge to go in and straighten that, because that is disturbing, the fact that is piled now on the floor and your desk is askew. But I will wait. So I continue on my mission to find 398 gold pieces.
I will, as I pass, lean over and pick up the mail and flip through it looking for anything that's not a bill.
All right. So just before, because Jofar, you are exiting the building, and then Declan, you're going to be pretty close behind him. Or you're going
I've
through the mail?
I've decided I'll stop. There might be a not bill in there,
Okay.
a flyer for a new bar, something.
All right. So just before Jofar goes outside, Silhana and Varys, what are you guys doing?
So Varys, hearing this noise, and knowing exactly what it is because it happens, 6 times a week, will head down now that he knows that Declan's up, and kind of say, it's about time you're awake. I don't suppose you found any clients while you were out drinking last night?
Not that I can remember.
Yep, that's what I thought. Okay, I'm gonna head out and see if I can find any clients, because I don't know whether Jafar mentioned. We owe a lot of money for the rent. I'm assuming he did because he mentions it every day. But
Also, don't we always owe a lot of money for the rent?
Well, yeah, there is that. Okay.
By the way, just so everyone's aware, the reason why you might continue to work with this drunk who doesn't pay his bills apparently is I'm actually really good at persuasion and deception, which I like to think is how we've managed to skate this long, constantly behind on our bills. But I have +5 on both those skills and advantage on both.
Well, so certainly on Varys' part, the reason he continues to work with you is that you saved him from a life on the streets.
Right.
And despite losing faith in you ever since, he does still care for you.
And I will say that definitely anybody else, because I'm sure that you've had conversations with other, uh, you know, renters. Being able to get 3 months late is unheard of. But even then, Declan, you're pretty sure if push came to shove, you could convince Ned to give you 1 more month without breaking anybody's kneecaps. But the interest and late fee would go up substantially.
can always buy 8 more hours with suggestion.
Yeah,
You don't
it stops
want
being
to buy
reasonable
Dagger.
after a certain point, though.
And then Josh, what is is it Silhana?
Silhana, yes. It's
Okay.
Elvish, so no one can pronounce it without half a pound of phlegm in their throat.
Silhana.
Silhana,
So what does she do when she's hearing all of this noise? If she's hearing it, I don't know what she is doing at the moment.
I'm busy fixing the sign because someone who will remain unnamed has let it get very dirty and covered in graffiti. So I'm fixing the sign because I care about the look of this place. And I'm totally not doing it to sham away from having to have to do any hard work. I've not been out here for 2 hours fucking with the sign because it doesn't take 2 hours. Nope, not at all.
Okay. So, Silhana, you don't notice anything, but Jofar, as you walk out the door, you almost run into somebody, and this person, you kind of you see them at the last minute and you stumble because it is an incredibly intimidating form. Before you is a large bugbear who is probably about as wide as he is tall, and he's a good foot taller than you. But unlike other bugbears whose fur and mane are kind of unruly, his is really slick back and well kept. He wears a breastplate that has a stylized gold dragon, no, not gold, silver dragon, on the chest, and it is really well polished and has a brilliant sheen to it. You also see on his side a massive flail that just looks like it would rip somebody to shreds. He has these really piercing black eyes that kind of you don't really see where he's looking, but he almost seems like he doesn't need to even move his eyes to be able to see everything that's going on around him. And he has a very serious, severe look to him with 2 of his lower fangs protruding from his jaw.
How common are bugbears?
They're fairly common. The goblinoid races in general are probably one of the more common demi-human races because they actually were they were one of the first civilized inhabitants of this land, the entire continent, before it was taken over from the human settlers. So they're pretty common.
Do I notice Solana cleaning up the graffiti? Is that something that happens all the time here, or is that just like?
It's not uncommon.
Okay. So first thing, I see this bugbear, I see the graffiti, I put 2 and 2 together. I'm going to do a quick check to see if this is my guy who put the graffiti on the wall.
Even without doing a check, you would be able to tell that this guy not only was not responsible from the graffiti, but this is not a bugbear that you would ever expect to be in an area like this. Not only is the breastplate alone probably more expensive than the annual salary of the average wage earner here in this area. But I mean, his very civilized look, even for a bugbear, is kind of sets him apart. And also, boy, I don't think I mentioned it. He has like his fur is kind of a reddish tint to it, and in addition to the breastplate being shiny and silver, there are also like his his arms and shoulder pads are kind of covered in a black enamel as well, and you can see that he is also wearing gauntlets, and his gauntlets each end in a vicious claw in case he ever had to didn't have time to grab his flail. He has some additional weapons available to him.
Okay, so he just he almost runs into me then.
Yeah, and he kind of growls at you.
Okay, I just step out of his way because he's obviously going somewhere, and he's probably not my graffiti perp, so I'll let him go.
He actually, so you try to step aside, and he doesn't even move. He just kind of his gaze follows you, and he in a really deep, almost growl, but not growl, because it's not meant to be intimidating, but you can tell his voice is just one of those voices that carries weight and authority with it. He says, "Are you Declan Sharp?"
No.
And then he looks up at the sign that Silhana is cleaning, and he says, "But this is the Four Dagger Corps investigation agency.
Yes, it is.
Is Declan Sharp in? I need to speak with him."
Is Declan coming behind me? Do I see him or no?
No, I stopped and decided better of it and started to sort through the mail. So I'm still inside, basically standing up. My desk is still like, at an angle in the one corner, but I'm flipping through mail.
Okay. He's inside. Let me take you in. I am Joe Farr, investigation assistant in training, and I lead him into the inside.
So as you introduce yourself, he does a slight nod and says, "I am Kurthen." And then he will follow you in. So as Joe Farr, as you guide him towards where Declan is, Declan, you see Joe Farr coming in, and you get that sudden, God, what is it now? But then you see just behind him this really imposing figure walk in with him. And he actually he has to kind of turn because he can't just fit. He's too wide to just fit through the door. So he has to kind of turn in order to be able to get through.
I would probably notice the bright gleaming armor, if nothing else, and say, "Oh my God, he did it." As I realize he actually found money.
So as he walked in, he would then address Declan. "Declan Sharp, I presume?"
And I would answer back in Goblin since I speak it. "Greetings, I'm Sharp. It's odd to see someone of your quality down here in the lower Dura. This is a nice neighborhood, but only if you have bad habits."
So he, if he's surprised by the fact that you speak and address him in common, he doesn't show it. Whether it's just a really good poker face or he doesn't care, it's hard to tell. But he just kind of grunts and nods, and then he hands you a note that is sealed in wax.
So I'll take it. I will put the mail down on my desk, which will start to slide, and then I'll slap my hand down on top of it, and then put it on, I guess, Joe's desk. I don't imagine we all have desks. Like if we do, we fished them out of the trash. So,
Yeah.
Hey, I got some good desks out of the trash.
so and then looking at the letter he just handed me, I'll ask, before I crack this seal open, who sent this?
All is contained in the letter.
Oh shit, it's anthrax.
All right. And I'll break the seal.
Before you read that, Sharp, I can contribute 20 gold pieces, so we only need 378.
Maybe another time on that, Joe.
Yes. I will organize these, the rest of your mail.
Wait a minute, I'm trying to find the letter. Where'd it go?
The sign was graffitied again.
Isn't it always?
Okay. So the letter basically reads that she had her name is Kaelis. It doesn't provide a last name, but oh no, it does. Kaelis Tella. And within the letter, it says that your investigative agency has come to her highly recommended, that there has been a recent break-in to her home, and that they would like you to come and provide assistance in identifying the intruders as well as recovering that which was stolen. It also states that there is 50 gold pieces just for coming, and which Kurthen will provide if you agree to come, and that the total reward will be much greater if you can succeed in locating what has been stolen.
So is her name or family familiar at all?
You can do a history check.
Okay. That's a not natural 20.
Okay. So yeah, you think that you have heard of her, and especially with the silver dragon emblazoned upon Kurthen's breastplate, you kind of are putting the pieces together. This is an elven aristocrat who lives within the higher towers, incredibly wealthy, has a great deal of influence, and definitely is a person to it's not every day that you can rub elbows with somebody of her station, and to be able to not only interact with somebody, but to potentially, maybe get them to owe you a favor would be huge. Although she does live like it's not just in the higher towers. She lives in the what are they called with their in the ones that are really high floating?
Penthouse?
The oh, here it is. The Skyway. So that's the city above the city.
So I will read that and then just look up, pick my hat up off of my chair and put it on my head and say, well, we're definitely going. Give me just a minute and then I'll be ready. Joe, go get the twins.
Well, Varys is there because he was talking to you before.
Okay. All right. And did Silhana come in or is she still outside fixing the sign?
I'm making my way back inside. I'm done fixing my work.
Well, we got a job, so we're going to have to head out. Then I will go into the back and, pick up my backpack, which I wouldn't have had. It's just standing in the office. Are we allowed? What are the rules in Sharn on like carrying weapons?
In this area of Sharn, it's kind of
Recommended.
expected
Probably
and
encouraged.
recommended,
What about-
encouraged.
What about wandering into the Skyway?
Skyway is going to be different. Yeah, you're not going to be walking around Skyway with weapons.
So then I will,
Unless you're clearly wearing any kind of armor or insignia that identifies you as Watch.
Are we? Is there going to be any allowance? Like this guy, the bugbear clearly, was walking around. Does he look like he has someone? The flail's huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was clearly walking around with it. Do we think there's going to be any allowance for the fact that we're with him? He clearly doesn't have a problem walking around with a weapon.
You can give me an insight check to see what your character might think.
So 19 on the dice and 7 is 26.
Okay. Yeah. You don't get the sense that even if you're walking around with him, they're not going to allow you to possess weapons.
Okay, so I guess Varys at least will head up into the attic and kind of hide the warhammer in the attic under some, dust sheets or whatever, so that when this place inevitably gets broken into while we're out, there's at least a chance that somebody won't find it.
Okay. Give me a stealth check for that.
18.
Okay. You think you hit it pretty well.
And he'll then hide a couple of daggers on himself. So he's still going to have weapons. He's just not going to be openly carrying them.
Okay, we'll use the 18 for both the warhammer and the weapons. All right. What about the rest of you?
I am also, while I'm in the back room, my real reason for coming back here was not the backpack. I'm going to use my Dark Shard amulet to try to cast Prestidigitation so that I can actually clean myself as opposed to just splashing whatever water I could find.
Okay.
And I got a natural 1, so that didn't work.
So you think you look spectacular?
Well, I think I'm aware that, hey, I shake my amulet when nothing happens.
You soiled yourself.
Maybe tomorrow.
You know what? Actually, give me another check.
17.
Okay. Nothing happens. So nothing bad happens. You didn't accidentally prestidigitize yourself to smell worse. But so at least it's not worse than it could have been.
But I imagine there's no running water down in the lower Dura, so I don't know where we get our water from.
Yeah, it's not great, the water. Those who can afford it might have some kind of cleansing stone, which actually Silhana has, that they could use that to kind of purify the water to some degree.
It's
Most
true, and we've got a
people.
spice pouch. I just need like a handful of cinnamon to like put in my to like shove under my armor.
There you go.
That's not how that works.
But yeah, most people don't have great water because it's kind of uh, the water is prioritized to be pumped up to the tops of the towers first, and then it makes its way down.
I imagine the cleanest water we get is like water spilling down accidentally from up top. You see like people run out with buckets to try to get some of that sweet rich person water.
All right, so you guys, so you're doing that, Declan. What are the rest of you guys doing as you guys are getting ready? So Varys, you hid some weapons. Jofar and Silhana, what are you guys doing to get ready?
Well, technically, I was never fired from the City Watch, so I'll just bring my weapons.
You wearing your City Watch livery?
No, that'd be wrong.
He's still got his badge.
So, why would it be wrong?
What, to wear it? To wear it? Because I'm
Yeah.
not on official City Watch duty at this point in time.
Ah, I understand.
So,
Can Varys wear your livery then? He take his weapons.
so who's the big guy?
I think he's, I don't want to say henchman, but he works for a new
Henchman.
client.
Mm-hmm. So we got a place to go then?
We do, all the way up top.
You're kidding. I've never been there before.
Well, it is always a sight.
Did you take care of the graffiti?
Yep, all taken care of.
Do we have any leads?
No clue. They must have done it at night.
Let's focus on the paying client, and then we'll work on the case of the nightly graffiti.
Declan, was it you?
First, it's graffiti.
Not,
And its
to-
body's in the
not
street.
that I can remember.
So,
I don't
it
think.
starts.
probably.
I don't think I would deface our own sign.
You're
I
not
would-
certain, though, are you?
Nothing
would-
is certain in this life.
I would never deface our own sign just so I could get out of doing other work. Why would I possibly do that?
Kurthan, not to be too mercenary, but the letter mentioned something about 50 gold pieces.
Without a word, he pulls out a small pouch and places it on the table. He's very confident that you're not going to try and take it and not go with him.
You want me to count it?
I'm pretty sure we can trust Kurthan and his mistress. Well, lead on, Kurthan. I don't think we're getting in there without you by our sides.
No, you wouldn't.
I'm sure
He's
we're
very
getting there
matter
with
of
him by our
fact.
side.
I'm sorry, what's that, Varys?
I'm not sure we're getting in there with him by our side. We
So,
don't fit in.
no, you definitely won't be fitting in, but that's not too big of a problem. So, you guys are walking through the ridiculous maze that is the Lower Dura, and it seems like about a mile of walking before you get to one of the few entrances and slash exit that would allow you to get out into open air. It's a really large pathway that opens and closes. Currently, it's closed. You can tell that there are it's built to be able to allow not just individuals walking in and out, but also cargo. So it is a humongous door, to the point where there are very thick chains attached to it, and mechanisms that are meant to open and close the largest portion of it. Although there are smaller doors built into it to allow people to go in and out without having to go through all of that.
Is there graffiti on the way?
It's not uncommon.
Is it similar to what I saw on our sign?
Give me an investigation check.
Good. Oh man.
As someone who is proficient with painting supplies and is the person who put the graffiti on the sign, I can tell you, no, it's not.
9 total.
You are fairly sure that it is.
Good. I make a note of it.
You on the way, you see a group of shifter children taking turns trying to make the biggest howl, and they're all like breaking down, laughing in between. Additionally, you do notice a group of drunken soldiers singing a warbling Brelish anthem from the last war. A few of them spot you and actually try to hassle you and get you to join in. Kurthin gives them a very stern look, and they kind of go like, "Ooh, okay," whoa, and they're just kind of stumbling back into the dregs of the bar that they just left from.
Are they soldiers of Sharn or Karna? I'm gonna get.
Yeah, they're Brelish soldiers.
Okay. So yeah, as he is like, give him a look. I reach into my belt pouch, and then as they straighten up, I take my hand off of it, and I give him a dirty look, like that. Act right look.
Okay. They also take note of your look.
Good,
Go
I
ahead,
look
Declan.
back.
I was going to say, I don't recall if I said, but I would have taken the pouch of 50 gold pieces, not just left it there in our unguarded agency.
So you make your way outside. The first thing that you notice is that there are 4 large. You could swear that they're like horses, but they are scaled and have wings and heads almost like dragons. This is not something that you've seen before. They're also all silver. Upon each of these is another warrior similar to Kurthin, though not quite as large as he is. And then there is in between all of these mounts, one of them doesn't have a rider, which Kurthin gets on, and he directs you guys into the kind of gondola type structure that's in between them. And that's when you notice that there are ropes attached to harnesses around these kind of dragon horses, and that the intention is that you are going to be flying with them within this contraption.
Okay. That's so hopping.
Well, this is really fancy. This is cool. Night hopping.
I will think about it for a second, but I will ultimately get in.
Joe?
Yep, I scan the area for any suspicious graffiti or drunken soldiers, and anyone else up to something nefarious, and I will get it.
Okay. I will also note, actually, as you, I forgot to mention, as you leave, as you open the door out into the open air, there is a blast of cold air that just rushes in. It's especially because of the difference between the hot, humid air in that kind of suffuses this area, and then the sudden shock of the freezing cold air outside. It is really a staggering difference because it's about 30 degrees right now, or for Ryan, it's close to 0 degrees. Little bit less than 0 degrees. It's also pounding rain, and you also look up and you see just massive structures all around you that make you feel so small. And because of the storm clouds and the rain, many of the towers are they kind of disappear into the clouds, and you can't see beyond them. And there's occasional flashes of lightning followed by rumbling thunder. Despite the storm, though, the breeze doesn't seem to be too bad. Probably only about 15 miles per hour. So kind of strong enough to move branches, have them waving in the air if they were there. But nothing. Though that does kind of raise some concerns that even in a breeze like that, if you're going to be flying in this gondola thing, and with the rain coming down, it's not necessarily going to be a comfortable ride.
Varys kind of as it starts, or not as it starts, but as he settles into the gondola, will pull out from his pack. Let me see exactly what's in my. Damn it, it doesn't say. He'll pull out one of his cook's utensils that he can kind of function into a funnel, and kind of put it in the top of his water skin and start collecting rainwater because it's cleaner than anything we get down there. So may as well collect it while we can.
Okay.
The minute I get out and I'm heading towards the gondola, then I just wrap myself up in my cloak because it's fucking cold.
Oh,
yeah,
man up.
And so once all of you get into this gondola structure, Kurthin gets onto his mount, and then in Goblin shouts upward, and his mount, followed shortly behind by all of the others, violently start flapping their leathery wings and take to the air. As the rope begins to lose the slack, there's then a sudden jerk for you all upward, and then you are suddenly rocking and being buffeted in the air by these winds, as well as the freezing rain coming down from you, soaking your clothes. And so this is kind of what you're experiencing on the ascent up towards Skyway. So how are your characters dealing with this?
I have a hat with a wide brim and a leather tunic over my armor, so most of the water's at least rolling off.
I have essentially mummified myself in my cloak. It's fully covering my head and everything just wrapped up into a little ball.
I would actually raise my shield over the twins. I don't know how much I can cover both of them, but I would try.
So that does help a little bit, but not much, because with the wind especially as you get towards the clouds, it does start to pick up a little bit, and so now the rain isn't necessarily all coming down, but it's also coming from sideways, and it's just kind of everywhere. And then there's a point where then you guys lose visibility. Like you can't even see the mounts that are flying up above you, except for maybe their shadows every once in a while as the lightning flashes through the clouds. It's a pretty terrifying experience, all things told. Especially, I mean, it's bad enough if you're not used to flying towards the upper tiers of Sharn, but especially in this weather, it's particularly grueling. And the flight lasts for quite some time. And actually, everybody give me a Constitution saving throw.
20.
$16.
15.
I'm going to spend a luck point. There you go, 19.
Okay. Oh, by the way, everybody does have action points. Does everybody know how to use those?
Right. I think we get one. It's like half
Yeah.
your proficiency bonus.
Right. So you all start with one, and those are per session. So it's use them or lose them. But you always start a new session with full action points.
So I imagine my luck was that I paused a bit and thought about it before getting into the flying gondola, but that left like the last seat being up against some sort of rising part at the back of the gondola that sort of blocks one side of me from the rain.
Okay. And what was your luck roll? Or your roll after you use your luck point?
19 or 18.
Okay.
19.
So you guys are all cold, but you're not getting to the point where you're suffering from frostbite or any of the other potential difficulties from being in freezing rain. The ride does last a rather bumpy half an hour. You guys do, I mean, it may be a factor of the weights that these mounts are carrying, or that they're not able to go directly up because of the storm. And so because of the turbulence, it does take a rather long time, but eventually you guys rise above the clouds and it's suddenly very sunny. It's actually a really breathtaking sight because because while the clouds were dark and stormy below as you were going through it, as you're getting up closer to the tops of the clouds, they're starting to become more white and fluffy, and the sun becomes much brighter. It's just blue skies, and above you is the floating towers of Skyway. You guys eventually get to the kind of entrance point, if you will, where there is a number of guards that are kind of stationed there, and you can tell that there's not many people coming and going, but this is kind of a port of entry, and you guys come down and land. The mounts then land shortly after. One of the riders, actually, who is a human, who is blonde and blue-eyed, and but kind of older, an older gentleman, he begins doing these strange kind of Tai Chi movements, and you can feel your clothes moving, and then water begins pooling and coalescing, and you can see like streams of water kind of coming off of you, and it's collecting into an orb of water between the four of you. and then after a moment you're dry, and then he kind of throws the water back down into the clouds.
You know, people live down there, right?
Yeah, but it's also raining, so
I think
Yeah,
that's what they call the trickle-down economy.
that is still a large ball of water to hit one person with if somebody gets unlucky.
and don't worry, the wind, the rain, it's all gonna disperse. It'll be fine. And then that's when Kurthin kind of gives a glance, and then kind of a curt growl, and then you can see the guy kind of raise his hands and be like, "Okay, big guy, man, you're no fun, are you?" You can tell they kind of have a rapport, because then he dismounts and Kurthin motions for you guys to exit the gondola. Once you guys do, you guys go up to the port of entry where there are a number of guards, and they begin to stop, and you kind of get the sense that they're going to ask the state their business and everything, but then they catch the glimpse of the silver dragon emblazoned upon all of their breastplates, and then they don't seem to stop you as much, but one of them does kind of raise their hand to Kurthin and say, "Hold on, we know that you are Miss Taylor's men, but we still need to make sure that they're not carrying weapons." Kurthin grunts and then directs them to kind of check you, and then each of them, like the guards, then come up to you one by one, and they're gonna start patting you down, and you kind of get the sense that they're gonna do that. And then they also ask if any of you are carrying weapons. So how do you guys respond to that?
Not a thing. And I open my cloak so they can see I don't have anything.
Well, I do have these, and I would pull out. I have a case of crossbow bolts, but I don't have the bow to shoot them. If you take them from me, I'm going to want them back.
It's unusual, but all right. They still pat you down just to make sure that you don't have anything else. You're not trying to hide anything, are you?
Nope.
All right. And then Joe, you got your weapons out.
Oh,
or
yeah.
showing, right?
Of course I do. I got my bow on me and my light hammer and my dagger.
Yeah. So they say, "Sorry, sir, we're gonna need those weapons. We'll give you a receipt, and you can pick them up on your way out, but you cannot carry them in city limits."
Even City Watch?
You don't appear to be wearing the regalia of the Sharn City Watch.
Correct. I'm on sabbatical currently.
That is still, we cannot allow you to enter the city limits with your weapons.
Receipt, you said?
Oh yes, we will give you a receipt, and you will be able to pick your weapons up upon leaving.
Okay. So I hand over my weapons.
All right.
And I check this receipt. Does it look legit?
Oh yeah. Oh, in addition, each of them are going to also be checking your identification papers. So each of you have identification papers. That's not something you would need to pay for unless you wanted one with a portrait. That you would have to pay for.
How much extra is it?
That's, I think, 5 gold pieces for that.
I mean, I can't afford that, but is there an advantage to having your portrait attached, or just pure vanity?
It does mark a higher class of individual. I mean, especially if you did have a name of some renown, there would be a reason, because more people would be familiar with you and would want to make sure that your identification papers match your portrait and that you look like your portrait.
Did I just paint the portraits on ours?
I mean, I also have a forgery kit proficiency, so
I have painter's proficiency.
It's not quite a normal process because it's House Civis that's in charge of this.
yeah.
So they have a special process that it's not just a painting; it's actually very photorealistic.
Varys probably, and I'll take the gold out of my gold, does have the. He probably has just. Okay, yeah, he'll have one with the portrait on. That are his kind of getting into places that I wouldn't otherwise necessarily be able to get into, papers that have the fact that he's part, like a member of House Madani on it. And then back at the shop somewhere, he'll have set without a portrait that he's forged that have a kind of false identity on for when he's not trying to get caught as a member of one of the Dragonmark houses.
Okay.
I assume there's some way that they can like look at the portrait and figure out if the portrait is fake. Like, of course, if I'm going to forge documents, of course I'm going to forge a portrait that looks like me or just papers with no portrait. So it would be a very bad thief who turned over identification papers with the wrong portrait.
Right.
We're laughing.
Well, that's the thing. So if you try to steal somebody's identification papers off their body or something, if there's somebody of renown that doesn't want their identity stolen so easily, they're going to carry identification papers with a portrait because then it's more difficult for somebody to just steal those from somebody and pass themselves off.
That makes sense.
Varys, once they get to you, they do ask you if you have any weapons on your person before they search you.
How, like, obviously I know that Varys rolled an 18, right? But how confident is Varys in his ability to hide weapons?
I mean, you rolled an 18. You tell me what Varys is thinking.
Varys is currently wondering whether if he shows them the identification papers first, they might let him through.
Well, wait a minute. Do you actually have a previous relationship with House Madani?
Not. How do you mean a previous relationship?
Were you actually like a scion within the house and you left, or like were you, because what is your relationship with House Madani?
His mother was a member of House Madani, who left before she gave birth to him and his twin. I feel like they know he exists. He doesn't have a lot of interaction with them.
So, so that could be a good or a bad thing, because if you don't have an official relationship with House Madani, even though, I mean, obviously you're a Dragonmark bearer, if anybody were to see you kind of trading off that name, but not actually having a formal relationship with the house, that could be problematic, but it could also potentially open up doors as well.
How old are Silhana and Varys? Roughly-ish.
I think we said 17.
Yeah, about 17.
So I assume I've been around Varys enough to know that he's the sort to hide weapons. And now that we're being searched, I would probably wait until they were patting down Silhana and kind of like nudge her forward so that they search her first.
Yeah.
And then wait till they get even vaguely close to inappropriate before I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Watch the hands there, fellas. This is a young girl you're patting down here. You're slowing us all down. We have an appointment with KLS. And now you're patting down children because what? You're afraid they might be assassins? Get a grip on things. Let's move this along, please.
Give me an intimidation check there.
Damn it, I don't have advantage on that. That's an 18.
Okay, so yeah, you can see the guard. His face turns red, and he's like, no, you have the wrong idea. No, here, you're fine. You're fine. Go ahead. And then he would get to Varys next. And then he asks, do you have any weapons on you?
I mean, I have. Yeah, he'll hand over one of the daggers in the hope that they don't look too much further.
Are there any others?
One other. He hid two on himself.
No, but I mean, they ask you, do you have any other weapons?
No, I don't think so, no.
So they begin patting you down, although they are kind of being more careful after Sharp's kind of aggressive insinuations.
Come on, Varys, we're in a hurry. Don't take so long.
And it's a very rushed job. They don't get anyone near the dagger that you have hidden on your person. And so then your motion to go forward, and there are gates that open, and you have never seen more beautiful architecture and more amazing architecture than what you have before you. I mean, there are sculptures that are flying in the air that seem to have pre-arranged movements, almost like a permanent animate object effect. And you also see dazzling gemstones kind of incorporated into the architecture that some of them have brilliant colored windows, what is that with like the church windows, the stained glass?
Stained glass.
Stained glass with that colors that change subtly to give kind of different emotions out of the images. The lots of buildings that have fresh ivy crawling up the walls. Everything here is absolutely palatial. Everybody that you see walking around is in the latest fashions. You see individuals that seem to just be wearing clouds that cover strategic areas of their body and kind of float out and disperse only to return and converge again to give this appearance of movement and flowiness, as well as individuals wearing just the finest tailored suits, as well as more creative fashions as well. You see a couple of Warforged that are patrolling the area, and it's just like any one of these people may have a ring that is more expensive than 10 of your agencies. So there is just a stunning amount of wealth all around you. Eventually, you get to the building that you are meant to, which is a tower of polished black dense wood. This one also has, it doesn't have actual ivy, but there are patterns of ivy that have been carved into the wood, inlaid with silver. There is, above the door is a coat of arms, which is similar to what is on the breastplates of the guards who are escorting you, with a stylized silver dragon surrounded by an ivy wreath. And below are the words "Welcome to Silvervine." And then Herthin then opens the door and escorts you inside. The other three guards kind of disperse to other parts of the building, and then eventually he brings you guys into a kind of foyer where you see a regal elf waiting for you on a very elegant couch. She's wearing glamour weave that seems to be woven of dark silver smoke in a similar fashion to what the one that you had seen earlier, but this is a little bit more subtle of an effect than that one. It's still clearly a gown, but it's kind of the way that the gown moves and the colors kind of change and shift to provide this kind of illusion. The elf has platinum blonde hair that is bound in ornaments of silver and jet, and she's standing in the center of this room next to and there's a large object next to her on the floor that's covered in black cloth, and so the elf nods and says, "Welcome. I am Kalis."
I'm Sharp. I understand you had a break-in, which seems surprising given the level of security up here.
Yes, it was unexpected. So let me explain. Clearly you see the adornments of my home. I am a scholar of antiquity, a collector of curiosities of past ages. Unfortunately, last night, a group of men were able to actually trespass past my security and broke into my home. They stole an object of my collection. Now, the strange thing is that this object, it's a curiosity, but it's really of trivial value, especially compared to any of the other things that could have been taken. Specifically, a piece of white marble in the shape of a delicate hand. Thieves ignored dozens of other items and seemed to move directly towards this as if this was their intended target. However, they did leave something behind. And then she motions to the object on the floor and then pulls the cloth, revealing the corpse of a young human man. The man appears to be dressed in rags. His skin is covered with dirt and scabs and abstract tattoos. So
Do the tattoos have any meaning to Varys? Kind of this looks like a young man that kind of grew up on the streets, and Varys, at least for a while, was in a similar situation. Do they have any kind of meaning at all in Thieves' Camp or something?
let's see. Go ahead and give me a history check.
Okay, that's +2. Yep. So that's 16.
Okay. The tattoos, what are the areas where you're from? the which parts of Sharn did you grow up on? Around.
So I'm not super familiar with Sharn.
Mhm.
I feel like his mother, who kind of left House Madani, wouldn't have been super poor, but after she died, and left him, he gradually migrated down to kind of the lower tiers where he was found by by Declan, sorry. Um, Kind of as he had less and less money, he had to move further and further down.
Okay.
He probably started somewhere in the middle.
Okay. I'm gonna send you a message.
Sure, go ahead.
Out of curiosity, would I happen to know if the hand has any sort of religious meaning?
Hold on 1 second. So, also, for anybody that is kind of looking at the body, you can go ahead. Oh, also, so there's one other thing, Ryan, from your history check that you got.
Yep.
All right. So
Okay, cool.
as this body is revealed, what are the rest of you doing?
I have questions based on. I mean, I would look down at the body while I'm talking, but I have questions for her based on what she said.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would ask specifically. You say it's a group of men. Does that mean you know that it was a group of humans, group of males? What do you mean by men? And what do you know about how they bypassed your security?
We're not quite sure how they bypassed our security yet, but the thieves were. Um, my guards did find the thieves in the act. That is how we knew what was stolen, and that is how this one met his end. If you look at the body, uh, you can see that it is. Where is it? Come on. That he appears to have severe burns. Go ahead and give me a medicine check, or you can do investigation. Sharp.
Rather do investigation.
Okay.
I am almost. I have a -1 to medicine. That's 15.
Okay, that's good enough. So the burns you notice are not normal burns. I mean, they appear to be normal burns right on his hands, but you also notice that there are tracings uh, that go up his arms towards his chest. So almost like some kind of lightning damage or electrical damage, uh, electrical attack that resulted in these very strange burns.
Did someone use lightning on him? Is there any other like visible wound?
How do the sockets in the walls look? Any burn marks?
Well, define wound. I mean, otherwise
I mean,
he
just
is.
looking at him, does he have? Does it look like he got stabbed anywhere? Is there blood?
I mean, he definitely has scars where he's probably been stabbed, but he survived. But
Mhm.
there's no other marks that would have led to his death. So it looks like these burns are what caused his death.
That they bypassed your
And
security increases the odds that somebody in your household helped them out, helped them do that. Has everyone been questioned to see if anyone knows who this guy is or has seen him before?
yes, well, if somebody did help them get past my security, they failed to get past the final trap that was protecting the statue. This is how he succumbed to his injuries. He was electrocuted by the magics that were activated when they tried to take the item.
Seems to me
But
only one of them didn't get past the trap. This poor guy may have just been brought here for that purpose. The sacrificial victim that allowed them to swipe the hand, whatever value it may have to them, I don't know.
it's possible, but we, my men, were able to see many of these people, I guess you could call them, as they ran from the scene. They all looked similar to be dressed and in the states of this person. They don't seem to have been so sophisticated to have been able to do what it is they seem to have done. I do have some influence with the clerics in the area, and I have been able to ascertain some information uh, from one cleric that was able to speak with the spirit of this man. So, from that, I was able to learn that the thieves are attempting to reassemble a statue, that they came from the district of Fallen. They're supposed to be guided by some wisdom of the past. Obviously, when you're dealing with such magics, the information is questionable at best.
Did anyone pull things out of this guy's pockets? Do you mind if I search the body?
Oh, by all means, please.
So yeah, I would do a search to see if there's anything on him that's at all unusual or that links him to the Fallen District.
All right.
Do you
Oops.
mention what you're looking for?
I would more or less, I mean, it's kind of like patting him down and rifling through his pockets. So I wouldn't necessarily, I don't even know necessarily what I'm looking for. I might pull something out of his pocket that makes me think of something else.
But
But
so if you kind of mention that you're looking for things that might link him to the fallen, Varys will kind of kneel down next to you as you're doing this and kind of whisper to you that he believes that the tattoos covering the guy's body belong to one of the savage tribes from an area of Sharn from Fallen. And that there's kind of that link. The tattoos seem to indicate that that's where this guy's from, and that he's likely a Reaver.
Good information. So, which guards encountered these thieves?
Kurthin, mostly.
Is he still here with
Um,
us?
Yeah, he is. Also, Kurt, one thing that you notice particularly as you're doing a search of the body, many of the tattoos are very crude, abstract. Some of them, they may just as easily be ritual scarring that doesn't have any kind of rhyme or reason to it. But you turn over one of the hands, and this image is revealed. Where's the? There it is.
Does that have any significance to anybody?
It's doubtful that anybody would recognize that image.
Okay. Varys will copy that down on his notebook that he's been taking notes in.
So, Kurthin,
Um,
did they all have tattoos like this, or was this guy unusual in that regard?
They were running away from me at night. I did not get a good glimpse at what they may have had. If they had any tattoos resembling this specific image, I couldn't tell you. But they all were wearing similar rags and covered in scars and scabs. Some of them even had actual muscle tissue showing as if their skin had been flayed in areas.
So, unsophisticated thieves don't necessarily strike me as the sorts who would be able to pull this off. So, I understand that maybe these people were unsophisticated, but there had to be somebody smarter than them behind them in that case. What can you tell me
Somebody got
about
them
this?
into the Sky City.
Right. They had to get in here somehow. Now, there may be a back door into here that I'm not aware of, but anything's possible. Every district of the city has its vices, and every vice requires some way to sneak things in.
Yes, well, that is possible. You can understand, though, that while I certainly am very motivated to find the thieves and retrieve the object that they have stolen, I have many objects of value and secrets that lie within my home. So while I trust the reputation of your agency, I am hesitant to allow you just free access to my home to see these areas that could or may not have been their route of access. I am fairly confident, though, that these thieves did come from Fallen. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Sharn, but there are few places more wretched or dangerous. Of course, one of my station would never go somewhere like that myself. But that's where you come in. I would like you to go to Fallen and recover this hand. I'll pay you 600 Galifar for your trouble if you're able to recover it. However, as I said before, it sounds like these people were attempting to reassemble the statue, and if you were able to find the entire statue, those Galifar would become dragons.
What can you tell me about this hand? What do you know about its history or the rest of the statue that it was apparently attached to at one point?
You know, outside of the fact that it likely came from Fallen, I can't tell you very much. As I said, it was not one of the more prized possessions in my collection. It is odd that they focused on this particular piece when there are so many others of much greater and more defined value.
I'd like to do
So-
an insight check on her, because I think this is much more important than she's letting on to, and she knows it.
All right, you can go ahead and do an insight check.
Okay.
Did anyone ever try to detect to see if it was magic?
Oh, yes, it was magical. That much we could tell.
And given that these are low-quality thieves, maybe involved in some sort of cult or cult-like activity in the Fallen, I can't imagine they came across other parts of a magical marble statue just laying around in the alleys of the Fallen. So who else might have had parts of this? You must know all of your competitors in the antiquities area.
I am not aware of anybody that may have had pieces of this particular statue. Once again, I unfortunately do not have a whole lot of information about this statue other than it came from Fallen. You are familiar with the history of Fallen, are you not?
I, the player, am not. So
Uh,
it may be a time for DM exposition.
Go ahead and roll a history check to see how much you know. And Silhana, I'm gonna send you a message.
Okay.
Got a 19.
Okay.
I kind of want to know how this thing was protected. Was it, like, did it have the individual protection on it by itself, or was the entire place protected? Because if it had individual protection, then we know it's much more important than she let on with.
Well, it could be that everything she has individual protection.
Quite possibly. However, that requires a lot of work and effort to go ahead and set up. Even
Of course, a
for-
single-use protection is somewhat useless.
All right. So in terms of Fallen, what you guys know is that as Kayla mentioned, it is one of the worst areas of Sharn. About 100 years ago, there was an incident in Sharn. It was not too long after the start of the last war. And it wasn't 100 years ago. It was, let me get more, let's see. About 80 years ago. So it was about 80 years ago. There was an incident where one of the towers of Sharn, the magics had been unraveled, and it actually fell. And the area that it fell into, the entire district was really destroyed, and it was already a poor area to begin with, and so it's really never recovered and only worsened since then. And since that time, it has been referred to as Fallen, as a kind of moniker to in remembrance of this event where a tower fell upon it and totally wrecked the area.
To what extent, the towers are kind of better off areas, right?
I mean, so the way that Sharn works, at least the common theories that you guys have heard, is that Sharn is in a manifest zone of Syriana, which is a plane that is also referred to as the Endless Sky. as a result, that's the reason that these towers can be built so high, because there is the magic that provides flight, or any kind of magic that provides levitation or natural buoyancy is enhanced to such a degree that these towers are possible. Not just the towers being built. I mean, some of these towers can go as high as a mile into the sky.
Sure.
But there are also a number of towers that aren't connected to any ground and are actually just floating, much as the towers that you guys are in right now. You're actually standing upon towers that have no foundation or basis touching the ground. So this particular tower was one of the floating towers. But if such magics were to be unraveled around any of the towers of Sharn, the results could be similarly disastrous.
But kind of what I'm getting at is, presumably in the immediate aftermath, the ruins of this tower were looted quite heavily because it would have been fairly opulent within the floating tower.
That's true, but also, how much would have survived as well. So, I mean, certainly there probably was a period of looting for those who did survive. But
But I'm thinking like magic items are really like super difficult to destroy, right? So if the floating tower that we're currently on was to fall, and this woman's got artifact level magic items in her house, they're not going to be destroyed by a brick falling on them, kind of thing.
True, but additionally, if there were such items of value, then the families of those individuals, because I'm sure that there are additional relations, and wealth is generational for those people that live in such places, they would have had motivation and the resources to go and seek out those things and retrieve them.
Sure.
So so it's probably a mix. There probably was a good amount of looting for those things that could be found and survived. Additionally, there's probably people that were motivated to go and find what possessions could be recovered from the wreckage.
Okay.
And where did you acquire the hand from?
Well, because that's kind of what I'm thinking, right? Is if the hand is from Fulham, and Fulham was originally a floating tower, then the hand could be part of something fairly powerful.
Whereas I was thinking, which is a related idea, that it may be that they didn't necessarily have to acquire the rest of the statue because the rest of the statue was pulled out of the rubble 80 years ago. And this hand is the one piece that somehow got separated from it and lost. And then they figured out that this woman had it.
Well, it was said that it looked like some of the scarring might be ritual, so my opinion is it might actually be of some religious significance to the people, either recently or old.
That's true. And another thing to kind of highlight, she did mention that when the spirit of the person was questioned by the cleric acquaintance of her, that this deceased person claims to have been guided by wisdom of the past.
Right.
So what that wisdom is, who knows? But as to Declan, as to your question as to where she retrieved it from, it was found. She says, "I found it in a bazaar going on at Moorgrave University, where they had been showcasing many of the artifacts that they've recovered from various ruins and archaeological digs."
You know where they happened to find it? Was it here in the city or somewhere outside?
No, I do believe that the origin of this statue is the wreckage of Fallen.
About what I was guessing. So, when someone came up and cast detect magic on the thing, did they happen to determine a school? Was it
That is
enchantment?
no, and that is the interesting aspect. The magic was subtle. It barely had an aura of magic at all, but it was also could not be determined of any kind of particular school of magic.
Did anybody try
The auras within the the infused power seem to be multiple and built into the object in such a way as to make it difficult to clearly identify any particular origin of this magic. Joe Farr, what are your thoughts? You've been kind of quiet.
I was just wondering where she got it. And does she have a certificate of authenticity or something?
Certificates of authenticity are for plebeians.
You don't have any paperwork? Something that says what this thing is?
No, I do not need paperwork to verify that this is a unique item and worthy of my collection. Though, as I said, one of the more minor items.
I realize you don't want us wandering around this place, but can you show us where the item was stolen from?
Give me a persuasion check.
Well, first roll was a 19, so it's 24.
Yes, but only for a moment. Kurthin will escort you. So she sits back upon the couch and waits for Kurthin to kind of escort you to the area. He takes you through a couple of hallways, and you come upon kind of what are those things called? Like it's like a wooden not a closet, but it's something. It's like a wooden chest, but with doors that open, like a cabinet.
A wardrobe.
An armoire?
An armoire?
Kind of, but one that is also clearly meant to kind of keep things safe. I guess this is the way that she, because then it gives her the opportunity to keep it safe and hidden behind the doors, and when she is wanting to showcase them, to open them up and have them present. You do notice, you see when you are brought to this chest, you see that there are charred prints or charred markings on the doors that are kind of like almost like shadows that in the shape of the hands where the person grasped the doors and tried to open it. And yeah, that's what you notice right off the bat.
So, I mean, a couple things I would be looking for is how prominent is this display case it was in? Does it look like this was put in a position that seemed like it was important or something that was completely secondary to her?
No, it's pretty secondary. I mean,
Okay.
you're not. Perthen was very intentional about the route that he took to get you here.
Mhm.
But you could tell from looking at what you've seen in this place that there are many ways that this could have been displayed. There are many ways that she could have made it much more prominent or demonstrated much more importance. This is not one of those things. This is almost more like a storage bin. Fancy storage bin, but still a
Is
storage bin.
is it up against the wall or is it out
It's up against the wall.
freestanding? Okay, so I'm going to start. Uh, hey, Girthen, if I open this, it's not going to kill me, is it? It's empty now, I assume.
Uh, 1 second. And then he's going to open it and just kind of take a glance inside. You may examine it. And then he steps aside.
Before
Hey,
I actually open the case itself, I would start looking around the base to see what's there. If there's any space underneath it, I would probably at least try to peer in there. And then remember, I can't see in the dark and tell one of the half elves to get down there.
Hey, Crithen, the magical protections that are on it, are they one-time things or ongoing?
They can be reset. They have yet to be reset.
And who moved the body from here back into the other room?
I did.
Hmm.
My mistress neglected to mention, but the failures that she indicated with my peers, one of them had fallen to these creatures. His throat was slashed before he could get word out to myself or the others. So,
God, I hate assassins.
Are there any other markings like that was on this door on anything else?
I'm sorry, say that again?
So does it look like they went to other things to look for this, or like they tripped the traps on other stuff? And is this the only one that looks like they tripped?
So obviously you guys are operating from a very limited perspective since you've not been able to have free reign to look through the rest of the palace. This isn't just a home, it's like a palace. But from what you can see, there's not a mark anywhere of anything that's out of place. There's not a window that is open where it shouldn't be open. There's no broken entry that you can see. There's, as far as you can tell, these people didn't even try to touch anything else. They knew what they were coming for.
Is everything else secured in the same fashion as this would have been?
I mean, but before that, Jofar, are you sharing that insight with anybody else?
I will, yeah.
Then I would say that is an astute observation. You're rehired. Bad news. The pay sucks.
You mean it's the
Wait,
same
we're
as it
supposed to be
was?
getting paid?
That's part of the bad
What's
news.
his name
I was
again?
gonna-
Kurtha?
And Kurthen.
Kurthan, where were you when this when you first spotted the assailants, thieves?
I was walking the hall as per my normal patrol.
And I just look around like, which hall? Like where? Could you show me where you were?
He points. I was coming from that direction when I spotted the man, the first one,
The first one?
I came just as he attempted to open the cabinet and electrocuted himself. I
Okay.
gave chase, and before I could get to them, they had pulled the item from the chest and had run off.
How
They
far,
were faster than I would have expected.
how far away were you?
I was probably a few dozen feet away.
How many of them were there?
3, not including the one that had fallen.
So 4 in total.
So this is like, this person is a big, bulking, menacing dude, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, think Brock Lesnar, but furry.
Does he have any obvious ranged weapons with him, on him?
Not obvious, no.
Does there happen to... Out of curiosity, can we see the other objects in this room as well?
I mean, there are a couple of other chests, kind of similar. That's one of the aspects of this that kind of sticks out to you, is there are other chests that are similar. They're nondescript. So any one of these could be easily interchangeable for the others.
Kirkland, out of curiosity, what exactly are in some of these other chests here?
That is not my place to say.
Well, I mean, there has to be a reason they went past all of these others. They knew exactly which one to go for, correct?
Then the others did not hold value for them.
Mm-hmm.
But how did they know that?
Yes.
That is part of the reason that my mistress has hired you. It is your job to answer that question.
One of the issues, though, is that one of your men got killed, and they broke in here, seemingly knowing the layout of this place and exactly which case to go to. Have you questioned the other guards who were on duty, or other people who might have known the layout and the location of this item? Somebody squealed. Somebody gave them information that enabled them to plan this whole heist out.
Have you hired any new guards recently?
No. My mistress pays very well. We are trained to be very discreet. There is a vetting process that is committed. All of us, our backgrounds are known inside and out. Several of us have ties to past military experience. Additionally, my mistress is obviously one of resource when it comes to magic. Much of this place is protected from divinations that may try to glean information from outside.
Well, that answers one of the questions I was going to ask her when we got back, whether or not somebody could have spied on this place magically. It's almost unfortunate that you're saying probably not, because that just increases the likelihood that it was some actual human being, elf, dwarf, or other inside who went out with the information, passed it along to them, and enabled them to break in here. I'd actually be surprised if somebody in their group hadn't been in here before, although I don't know who or in what capacity.
How long have you had this item
I'm sorry,
this
but
location?
I'm sorry, but Declan, if you saw the condition that these men were, there is no way any person in their shape would be allowed anywhere near this premises.
Sure, the ones you saw were in too bad a shape to be let in here, but the ones you didn't see, somebody had to be in here and gather enough information to do all this.
Do any of the people working here have connections to the Fallen or to that general area?
None.
I feel like another point here is that just because they looked like that when they broke in, it doesn't mean they look like that when they scoped the place out. Ignoring the fact that there are magics that can disguise or alter your appearance completely, there are ways of disguising yourself to avoid detection. Magics are unreliable; they can be dispelled. A physical disguise is, if done properly, much more foolproof.
Listen, I think you may be confused as to your role here, so if my mistress was not clear enough, allow me to speak for her. We do not care how they entered this place. What we care and what you are being hired for is to retrieve the item.
Sure, I get that, but the way they broke in here could lead us to the people who actually stole the item, which probably aren't the mooks who they sent in to do the heavy lifting.
What do you mean you don't care how they got in? What if they come back and
I
take all
did
the other
not
stuff?
I did not say that we do not care. What I am saying is your role in this matter is to find them and to retrieve the item.
So I'm actually going to open the case and then just look inside. See if I can find anything, any sort of clue.
Go ahead and give me an investigation check.
Wherever Declan said that he spotted him, I'm going to attempt to walk where he was. Retrace his steps.
You mean where Kurthan said that he spotted him?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Kurthan. Sorry.
Kurthan will walk with you and be very careful about where you go, because there are other doors and other hallways, and it looks like he doesn't want you going through any of those. So he'll get to a point where he'll show you where he was.
Okay.
But he is making it very clear that even if he gets the sense that you're going to even move slightly beyond that, he is tensed and ready to intervene.
So you were here when you saw him.
Yes.
And what's my line of sight? So what do I see what do I see when he sees? He's probably taller than me, but
A wall of Kurthan is blocking your line of sight.
So what you see is you see several of these chests lined up against the walls. You see several large windows at various intervals on. So from your perspective on your left side, none of the windows seem to be opened or seem to have any signs of tampering or anything like that. You basically see that it's a fairly straight route from here towards the kind of meeting room where you saw Kayla. And from there, it's a pretty straight path to the door.
okay. So I can see. So it makes sense that he would see the person get electrocuted.
Mm-hmm.
So you saw the rest of them,
Yes.
and then from this point on, you did what? You yelled, "Intruders!"
I blew my signal whistle.
Oh, excellent.
And then I gave chase.
And then they just ran and escaped.
Yes.
How were they able to escape? Or even better yet, how were they able to get up to the city?
It was dark at the time. But they just seemed to vanish.
Hmm.
Were you roused from your sleep, or are you just on your nightly watch?
When this happened, I was on active patrol duty.
It'd be possible to roll an insight check for when he said they just vanished, because that sounds really fucking suspicious unless they had a really high-level caster with them.
Well, or they just rolled really high on a stealth check and he doesn't have the perception to pick up on it.
You'd have to have horrendous perception.
Not if they
Still,
rolled
you
a 30
can
stealth.
Yeah, I
You
don't really
could-
trust him.
you could roll an insight, and then Sharp. In terms of your investigation of the cabinet, there's not a whole lot, but I mean, you can see maybe what appears to be a little bit of blood that may have be on one of the shelves, as well as maybe a drop right below the chest.
Was there blood on the guy? On the body?
No.
Nope.
But he didn't take it, so.
Declan, you can get a little bit of insight into what that means. I'm going to send it to you.
I mean, and I'll say to the group, well, I don't really see that there's that much here. It may be our best bet is to pursue leads in the Fallen. Although, Kurthan, we may have additional questions that come up as we investigate this further, and we're going to need to be able to report back in on what we found. Even if we don't find the item itself, it probably would be useful to you or the next people who get hired to do this job. Where the location of these people are, assuming we can find them.
Perhaps we should also speak to the college about where the item came from. They might know more.
So, Kurthan, when you're mentioning that, Sharp, Kurthan does mention something. Let me just pull it up, make sure I give you the right information. Okay. So Kurthan looks pretty intensely at you, Sharp, and says, if you go to Fallen, you may want to seek out priestess named Phala. She's a missionary of the Silver Flame. She lives at the Blackstone Church in Fallen. She would probably be the best person to speak with there. She can possibly act as a guide or a resource for you to be prepared what you may find in that area. As for being in contact with myself and my mistress, I have no way for that outside of. Well, that doesn't make sense.
If you don't have a way for us to get back in here to report back when we found the hand, then I suggest you or somebody.
Oh no! So there's he, in terms of that, he provides you a I think you'd call it like a letter of writ. It basically states the business that you have with Kaelis, and it bears her unique seal, and Korean states present this when you are entering this place, and they will provide you passage and notify me that you are here. Additionally, if you, with that 50 gold pieces, travel between wherever you may be up to Sky, what is it called again? Sky? I keep wanting to say Skyfall. Sky Tower.
Silence.
Huh? Skylights?
Skylands. No,
Skylands?
Skylands.
The Skylands. The Skyway. All right. If you incur any costs getting back to the Skyway, you will be reimbursed for such cost.
Well, other than maybe asking about who specifically she bought the hand from at the university, I don't really have anything more at this point.
No.
Does this family have a familiar name? The one we're dealing with right now? Like a famous family name?
Declan recognized it pretty strongly. This is definitely a person that has quite a bit of influence. Those that live in Skyway are not only the wealthiest in Sharn, but they're also oftentimes somehow involved in the power groups or governing of Sharn to some degree.
Okay.
If you really wish to find more about the origins and want to seek that from the Moorgrave University, the individual that this item was purchased from, their name is Belton Van Nestle.
True expert in chocolate.
I was thinking it would be a young assistant professor finger snap.
Like, I came up with the name Belton. I'm like thinking, all right, I want to make this van something, and then Nestle just popped in my head. I was like, that sounds delicious.
Better than Jonathan Hershey's.
Right. See, I would say it actually makes sense to me that this guy said they seem like they just vanish, because if they were all rogues, they were all dashing as a bonus action, so they outran his dark vision pretty quickly.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out how the hell they got up onto this place without a bunch of funding or assistance.
Right. They clearly... Yeah, I still think they clearly had to have some help from the inside just to get, within the perimeter. They had this, sneaking up on the guard might not have been the hardest thing for them to do, but they had to know, where is there only one guard? Where can we get away with this? And they had to get into this district to begin with.
I'm still not completely convinced she didn't hire them to come and steal the item so they could bring it to the other people with it so they can go ahead and have a necromantic ritual or some shit when they get back up here.
Maybe it's all that, and she's trying to collect on the insurance.
I mean, I will say that she mentioned she offered you 600. So Galifar are gold pieces.
Mhm.
Yep.
So she offered 600 gold pieces to retrieve it.
Then platinum
But
for the whole thing.
if you can retrieve the entire statue, it goes up to 6,000 gold pieces.
She be hiding something big.
Right. Well, Kurthan, I think I'm done then. If you want to help us get back down to the city below, that would be great.
Yes. I will ready the steeds. Do you have anything more that you wish to speak with Kaelis about?
Nothing that I can think about.
I'm sorry, he wouldn't refer to her as Kaelis. He would say probably Mistress Tella. That's probably what he'd do.
How long has this item been in this particular spot?
She has perhaps had it for a year or so.
And how many guards have you had since that time?
None. There is not much turnover when it comes to my compatriots.
What about the servants?
None. As I said, Mistress Tella is very well, both for the services that she requires as well as the discretion of those in her employ.
Well, I guess then I do have one more question for your mistress, if we could speak with her on the way out. Should be quick.
He bows his head, and then he begins leading everybody back. And as you do, she's kind of like lounging on the couch, like with her arms out, on the top of the sofa.
I think I need a better visual, and you have a couch right behind you. Do you mind demonstrating?
Yeah.
I'm going to refrain from that for the moment. But
Hit me like one of your French elves.
but she turns her head gracefully and kind of looks at you, and a smile crosses her face, and she says, "Well, is there anything else you'll be needing? I do hope you'll be accepting this job."
Oh, there's no question that we'll accept the job. I have one quick question. Has anyone expressed any interest in this item since you purchased it?
No. I am, as a collector, I do not particularly advertise the things in my possession. I acquire these things for personal reasons rather than to show them off or for any, some of my peers view it as some kind of demonstration of their power or wealth. Whereas my collection is a little bit more personal.
Well, I'm still noodling around in my head how it was that these thieves broke in, knew exactly where to go, and got there. So it occurred to me that maybe somebody who later passed information along to them inadvertently, potentially, at least asked to see it or looked upon it once upon a time, and so could report back on things like that.
I suppose anything is possible, although I would be quite surprised if any in my employ were to betray me, especially for something so small compared to the other things in my collection.
Well, it seems as if there's some ritual significance to this, so I wouldn't necessarily underestimate the power of religion to sway people. But it need not necessarily have been someone in your employ. Assuming you had guests over, it could easily have been a guest. I would assume no one in your employ would have the impertinence to ask you to see any of your items.
Yes, my employees are all very proper in their acknowledgement and addressing of me. They would not ever cross that line.
What about paramours?
Excuse me?
Paramours.
Yeah,
I do
think
not
she
think
heard
I
you the
am
first
comfortable. I'm not comfortable in talking about my personal affairs. What are you insinuating?
Well, we're trying to eliminate who may have taken this. Anyone who knew where it was. So you don't believe that it's anyone in the cleaning staff or the guards or anyone else, then is that everyone?
I'm sorry. Joe Farr, is it?
Correct.
And she kind of starts using her ladylike charms to appear a bit seductively. And she says, believe me, there are no potential paramours, as you say, who might have done any such thing.
Okay, roll insight, see if she's telling the truth.
Okay.
What's my insight? 17 total.
You get the sense that she's telling the truth. You also think that she may be flirting with you, but not because she's interested, but because she's doing it ironically to embarrass you or something.
Not a problem. Happens all the time.
Out of interest, just because.
Sorry, what's up, Solana?
Out of interest, is there any religious like iconography or anything that looks similar to what we saw in the guy's hand in this room or anywhere else in the house that we've been?
Nothing that you've seen within the home. You're certainly welcome to do a religion check if you're trained to see if there's any religious connotation or religious connection with that mark.
Okay. The total would be 17. Yes. For religion. Ow.
So you're racking your head. You can't really think of anything that is religiously connected to a symbol like that. And then in terms, I remember earlier that you asked about the stone hand.
Yes.
If there was any religious significance. You don't know enough about the hand or what it looked like to really be able to ascertain any kind of significance there.
I'm just trying to put 2 and 2 together because we know that they had ritual markings on their body, and if they went through all the trouble to steal something this important, it has to be for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some fanaticism of some kind.
Sure, that's a logical.
Otherwise, why risk resources on something so heavily guarded?
Well, I think we'll take our investigation down to the Fallen and pursue the angle there. If we find anything, we'll be in touch. If we don't find anything, we'll be in touch as well.
You don't want to go talk to Von Nestle?
I ignore him and turn.
Obviously, he didn't hear me, so I make sure I. Are you walking away
on
from
the
me?
way on the yes, I'm walking away. On the way out, I will grab you and say, "Yeah, we want to go talk to Von Nestle, but I don't necessarily want to telegraph to rooms full of people who may be in on this cape or where we're going next. Whatever a telegraph is."
As the bugbear stands tall.
It's up there with that Jesus Christ fella I sometimes talk about.
As you say, look up and there's the bugbear just hovering over you.
Kurthin states, me and my men will take you back to where we picked you up from. Any arrangements that you need to make from there, you will need to do on your own.
Everyone has their receipts, right?
Yeah, so you guys, when you get back to the court, we'll call it, you guys present your receipts for any items that were confiscated, and they do return them in proper order.
Have they been cleaned?
They have not been cleaned, but they have not been worsened, so there's that.
No tip for you.
So you guys get into the gondola thing. They begin to take flight and lower you down. Unfortunately, the storm is still going on, although it has eased up slightly. However, because of you guys are going down, you get many more instances where you feel like you're in free fall, and you get that really queasy gut feeling that happens as you guys get those sudden feelings of dropping for a dozen feet or so, or even further. As you guys get out of the clouds, you also then hear a really high-pitched whine. And then also mixed in with that, you hear like a klaxon sound. And you see somebody just sweep by in your vision very quickly. Somebody that seems to, it looks like, although it's dark, it's rainy, and there's, lightning and thunder, you get a quick glimpse at what appears to be like a halfling fellow in goggles with a large overstuffed backpack who is riding a sky sled. And not far behind him, you see another sky sled with somebody riding it in the uniform of the Watch. And the line sound that you hear is actually a special sort of horn that, as the sky sled goes quicker, it uses the air to create this whine sound, which is what they use to kind of announce their presence and that they're in the area. And then slightly behind them, there's a larger sky sled that is able to carry multiple people. And this one actually, the front of it appears to have a magic mouth spell affixed to the front, and it is letting out that continuous sound of like a siren. And this like halfling person is doing these maneuvers trying to escape, but eventually one of them hits him with a dart, and he freezes, and the sky sled begins to fall, and then the larger one shoots out a kind of net, and it grabs the halfling and then it swings down, and the larger sky sled kind of jerks from the sudden weight and momentum, and then they change direction and go off into towards another part of the city.
I turn to Ryan, and over the sound of the wind, I go ahead and say, and they say we have a crime problem.
Yeah, well, can't run them all. And anyway, I wonder what he was doing.
Did his sled fall, or did they catch the sled as well?
Go ahead and make an Arcana check for anybody that wants to. Or also a history check works as well.
I'm not trained in either.
12.
That's good enough. So you know that, and especially actually Joe Farr, you would know this pretty well. The Sky Patrol Watch, who are the ones that are typically seen riding the sky sleds, they oftentimes will carry bolts in their crossbows that are specially made. They don't do as much damage because they're not meant to kill, so they'll only do like 1 hit point of damage. But each of the bolts are enchanted so that once it hits the person, it is a no save hold person effect, and so that's why the halfling suddenly went rigid, and then as he fell, they caught him with the net, and then he was like dangling with the sky sled in the net from the larger sky sled patrol unit.
So we could tell it was a halfling?
Yeah.
Yep, probably one of those halflings. Probably cooked out on Catterlick or something. Glad they took him down.
Halflings would be dead if they used Catterlick. Gnomes only.
Oh yeah. For Ryan and Josh, in my games in Eberron, there is a special drug called Catterlick. It's primarily used by gnomes. What it is the gnome will put a drop in one or both eyes, and their eyes immediately dilate, and they get a sense of kind of euphoria, and they really lose control of their muscles and kind of really relax like a super Valium. But the thing is that this causes, as it's metabolized in their body, it causes them to release this odor that attracts cats, the cats are then drawn to lick the gnome, hence why it's called Catterlick. And those that overdose on it are typically found having been eaten by cats. But it is basically poison for anyone outside of a gnome. So it's a highly controlled illegal substance.
Can I get a version of this that works on women in real life? Nope.
So yeah, that's a thing.
A former character of mine was very highly addicted to it.
Don't you have a lot of money? Aren't you addicted to cocaine and shit, not this cheap stuff?
So you guys have been dropped off back at the entry point in the tower where you guys first emerged from, and I think that's a good stopping point for the night.
Yeah, I guess the only question I have is I would want to go to the university next, as now my suspicion is, and when we're free of people who work for what's her name, I will share with everyone else that maybe the people who wanted this didn't go there first. Maybe they had to figure out that it was there by going after Elton Van Nestle, who I pray is still alive, because with that name, we have to actually be able to talk to him. But you never know. They may have abducted or done away with him before this.
When we're out of earshot, I'm also going to share. It's also quite possible that she might have staged the entire robbery so that we get her the entirety of the, statue.
See, now I was picturing kind of like Elton John, but like with a Nestle's Quick theme.
I've typed all the names that came up this session for you guys.
Now I can check my spelling, see how bad it was.
Oh, Ned Doolin doesn't have 3 Qs in it? Shit.
Oh, and then there was also...
And I forgot to mention, when he mentioned Phala, I was very interested. And then when he mentioned Priest of the Silver Flame, I immediately darkened at that.
Oh, yeah. Yep. All right. So, comments, criticisms, things people liked, things people would do differently.
I enjoyed it. I haven't figured out what's going on yet, so that's good. I'm interested in figuring out what's going on. I guess I have, in preparation for this, I have been watching like a couple old movies. So some part of me is just assuming that somehow there's like either Kalis is somehow involved in all this in some weird underhanded way, or plans to double cross us at the end. Like there'll be some. I don't trust this rich broad from the upper towers.
No, I don't either.
There's too many questions into how did they get up there? How did they get through the house? How did everything happen?
Right, and why would they be so hostile to our figuring out how they broke through their security?
Yeah,
Maybe they're afraid we'd use the same trick to break through their security, but I would hope they would change their security.
It's interesting because I don't want to like unintentionally give anything away, but there's one question that I'm surprised none of you guys have kind of asked or considered.
I mean, why?
But I don't want to
Yeah,
give it away because in a game like this, the questions are incredibly important.
right.
But there's one big question that I'm kind of like, interesting. Nobody's mind went there.
I mean, why did she decide to come to our agency in the bottom of fucking nowhere as opposed to some high-class place?
That's
Because we're awesome.
Well, but here's the thing, right? Here's the thing: is the letter, and this did occur to me. I just never. I don't know whether I got to read the letter, but the letter said that we came highly recommended. By who? Like, who is she talking to that's recommending us? Because there is a rather large gap between people we know and people that she knows.
I mean, that's stuff which, as players, we'd ask, but in character, my character honestly wouldn't give a flying fuck about it because she's like, we're so fucking awesome, look how great we are. Everyone knows.
And look how much they're going to pay us.
Right. Well, one of the reasons, two of the reasons, I guess, why I'm a little distrustful of her is that she's basically showing up with enough money. So that's a little suspicious when she could have gotten us way cheaper than that. And then second, the most obvious reason I can think of why she actually lowered herself to pull a detective agency from the lower Dura up to her sky palace in order to investigate this is that in the end, we're expendable and she needs someone expendable.
Yeah, I think there might be an element of any of the kind of higher tier detective agencies that are going to tell her to get lost when she mentions that she needs them to go to Fallen. Like, if it's as bad as she's making out, then they're going to go, Fallen? No, actually, we're going to want more money than that to go there. Because we need to hire private security from House Thrask or something. Dunny, whichever one it is that provides bodyguards.
Also, we
Oh,
might
Listeners.
unionize, so we might actually be able to go in there. While other places,
Huh?
There you go.
Yeah.
We should hire another detective agency to go investigate this.
We'll subcontract it out.
Right. We'll pay them like a normal rate to go investigate this.
Campaign of
You've
and
come
report
highly
back.
recommended.
So what our detective agency actually is a kind of detective agency brokers, whereby we find contracts for detective agencies.
Mhm.
And this is the game now. Okay.
We actually did have a game that Peter ran where one of the characters was really intent on hiring other adventurers to go on the adventure because it sounded too dangerous.
I mean, I play in a game where we regularly hire other adventurers to do shit because the DM insists on giving us, like, we're playing like 17th level characters, and he's like, oh yeah, you need to go and get this thing from the kobolds. I'm like, absolutely fucking not. You're offering me 100 gold pieces to go and fight some. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Somebody else can go do it. I'll hire somebody else to do it.
Well, it's not at a certain point you've obtained enough gold and wealth that you're kind of a minor or even major lord yourself with
Well, that's the
peons that you
thing.
go send to do that stuff.
Like the person that came to us, I think what the DM was trying to do is, like, this person that came to us had very little money and he was offering us his last 100 gold pieces or whatever it was to go and rescue his daughter. I think what he failed to take into account is that none of our party are in any way good aligned and are mostly chaotic, and we all went, no. Because we all have thousands upon thousands of gold pieces and you have 100. Like, the fact that we could walk through an army of kobolds without getting a scratch on us is irrelevant.
Right, but at 17th level, he just needs one of your chaotic people to be like, yeah, slaughter some kobolds. Let's go do it.
I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for the slaughter.
Right. And he doesn't even, at 17th level, he doesn't need you all to agree. Any one of you could go kill all
Yeah,
the
that's fair.
kobolds.
That's absolutely fair. Like,
Where's the necromancer? He just walks in there and suddenly he's got more people to his army.
The real risk is that eventually that guy gets to the daughter and he's like, one more to kill.
oh wait, that one wasn't a kobold? Oh shit.
Help me, someone abducted my daughter who I sent to save her.
Yeah, like, most of our party's running around with displacer cloaks and somewhere in the region of 25 to 30 AC, so kobolds would need to roll double nat 20s to even hit us.
Laughs that and kobolds mainly use traps, collapse into our tunnel on party.
Yeah, but the barbarian would laugh at a tower being collapsed on them. The casters are just going to teleport out. Like, once you hit a certain level,
Yeah.
lower level enemies are just...
The ability for the DM to challenge the players is drastically different.
Yeah.
15 or 16, it kind of changes the entire game 100%.
Yeah.
For sure.
But
I enjoy higher level play. I've got a couple of games that we're sitting at level 20. It becomes a very different game, though, as you say.
yeah. The stakes should also be higher too.
For
Kind of
sure.
like the end of McCormick's Folly.
There's something
So-
immensely satisfying about vaporizing people, though. Every now and
Oh
again.
yes.
Ah, yes. We've got the correct members of the party to pull off combos where, with a couple of rounds of setup, my sorcerer will then launch a single spell that deals 300 plus points of damage. The first time we did it, the DM was distinctly unimpressed because his bad guy just dropped.
That happens though. like the one time when in McCormick's Folly, Tony decided to summon that demon thing, which then triple critted the queen alien that I had thrown at you guys. Or no,
It was
the
the alien
T-Rex.
T-Rex.
Yeah, the alien T-Rex. I was just like, I can't even be mad at that. That's just amazing. Like, not even a round, one action in the combat.
So
Nice.
for next time, you should know my first thought is before we actually, I do want to go talk to Elton, just mostly for his name, but I would need to see what he knows about this object. But I would also want everybody who has connections in the city to start hitting them up to ask about these scarred cultists. I mean, somebody in the lower areas
Mhm.
must have seen people that are this scarred up. Maybe they've seen that tattoo. It's pretty noticeable, maybe not, but or at least it's pretty distinct, I should say. But maybe we can get some information without actually going down and like the other idea is, of
That's a good
course,
idea.
this one of the half elves infiltrates by claiming to be interested in this new religion.
Why one of the half elves?
Well, because I am obviously the ideas man, and Joe Farr is like 50 years old, so they may not be as willing to accept. How old was
I
the
mean,
guy? I didn't even think to ask that. The body who was dead.
she described him
Oh,
as a young man.
I mean, it's hard to tell because of what a hard life this dude had.
Mhm.
Like,
He looked like Keith Richards, but he was just celebrating his 15th birthday.
Yeah, maybe
yeah,
Joe
I mean,
Farr is the guy we ritually scar and send in there.
Well, like I'm thinking about this, right? I don't know what Silhana's charisma is. Varus's is not good.
My charisma is -1.
Yeah, mine's a flat 0. So the only one of any kind of ability to persuade people is Declan.
Besides, I'm the muscle of this group.
I am also the muscle of this group.
I feel like the Ranger is actually the muscle of the group. He certainly has the biggest
His
hit
hair.
dice.
so yeah, the dude didn't look young, but based on how hard of a life he was living, he probably wasn't older than 40. But by how scarred and scabbed and also he had really poor hygiene. A lot of his teeth were rotting, and
Math.
some of them were missing.
So yeah, maybe then Sharp is the one to try to do the infiltrating. It's not necessarily a bunch of young kids in this religion of theirs, so I can pull it off too.
So one thing that I will suggest, just to kind of make things a little interesting for next time, is if you guys want to send me an email about a particular person or contact that you might have in Sharn that you might want to seek information from. Let me know your relationship to them and kind of the sphere of influence that you feel like they may have. Please kind of pay attention to your relative level and your age as factors. And
I don't think Varus was a man of the night.
I mean, who knows? But
I do.
But but yeah. So if you guys wanted to email me a description of somebody like that, and then also maybe roll a flat d20 and send me the number that you roll, and then Oh yeah, ear to the ground.
This is where technically the original Ear to the Ground is one contact in every city, but you said since this is going to be a one city thing, that I would just have
Yeah.
contacts in different districts or levels or
You
neighborhoods.
absolutely would have a contact in Fallen then. So I will email you. You would also probably have a contact at the Moorgrave University. So I can email you some information from them. Just roll me a d20 for each of those and kind of email that to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously we're all on honor system, so I trust you guys are rolling and not just sending me numbers that you want.
I-19. I-19.
um,
Well, I got an 18 for the Fallen and a 10 for Moorgrave University.
They kicked you out of the university for being a drunk. We don't want this guy around.
What is university for? If not to go and get drunk.
18 for Fallen and 10 for Moorgrave.
Yep. That was my unmodified roll. I don't know if I add anything to it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to kind of decide on the fly what modifier you would use as what, kind of based on who your contact is. So, Kurt, I'm going to ask you to kind of you know that you have contacts in these areas. I'd like you to kind of describe them, though. So
I'll send you an
email.
I'll send you an email with a description of who it is. I think I know.
Okay. And then for everyone else, too, if this is something you're interested in, send me a description of a person that you might have contact with that might have information. Or they may not, but it's then I have kind of a contact that you all have that I might be able to utilize in other parts of the adventure. So we can do that. And then that way, if you guys can email that to me, we can be prepared for when we resume in 2 weeks. I can have that information given to you guys, and then you guys can kind of role play revealing that information to one another.
Okay.
Now, in terms of the game, is there anything that anybody wants to see more of, or was there anything that anybody was confused about in terms of tonight's session?
I was confused about how the halfling relates to our story.
Well, yeah.
Well,
That is Chekhov's gun.
Chekhov's halfling. Chekhov's flying halfling.
Super Santa Claus. Well, you see, when I was in the cargo, I had this quick fling with a halfling for a while, and that happened to be him. I'd recognize that sled anywhere. He flashed hundreds.
Part of it was to kind of create a sort of sense of the world you guys are in.
Mhm.
So kind of describing how how the watches sky carts, the sky sleds, kind of differ from the others, and how they do their sirens. Because I thought that was an interesting idea. Because one thing I've thought about is Magic Mouth is not a very often used spell, and I was thinking that it would be perfect for just belting out a siren. And then also I was thinking about those in the country, people have those deer whistles to kind of make sure that deer don't fly out into the road. And I was thinking, what about a larger version of that? Because you'd only need the siren if you're in a chase. So.
Whereas I was thinking when you said it that's a good use for Magic Mouth. You could also use it like if they have like tram cars, you could have like a watch the tram car please Magic Mouth that's just constantly annoying people as it drives by.
The doors are closing. The doors are closing.
Yes. Please stand away from the closing doors. But yeah, I was thinking about when you introduced the halfling, that maybe this is just our introduction to the fact that in like Act 3, we're gonna have to steal a sky sled and chase somebody with the police chasing behind us, shooting us with these one-hit, no-save, hold-person arrows.
Silence, you're giving away the story.
The halfling is the cult leader to this whatever statue.
Yep. It's the statue of the cupped balls.
Depending on how those bullets work, or darts, whatever they are, the monk's deflect missile ability just
I can catch
became
it.
way more effective. Not only can you catch it, now you can throw it back at them.
Yep. I'm going to have to get my hands on a few of them.
That could be bad too. I assume the sky sleds, if like the person controlling it gets paralyzed, they just float. They don't like plummet.
Well, the halfling plummeted.
Right.
They caught him with the net, though.
It might be a little bit of interpersonal conflict if you kill a bunch of the city watch in front of Joe Farr.
I didn't kill any of them. I paralyzed them. They killed themselves.
Okay,
yes, the ground killed them.
Looks like a suicide.
So kind of order of operations then is let Joe Farr be hit with hold person first, then you can redirect the bullets back at their pilot and crash them into a building.
Or Solana redirects a bullet at Joe Farr.
Right.
Oops.
Or, Sharp can just be like, oh my God, what's that, graffiti? And then while he's distracted looking.
In the meantime, I've drawn the penis on the side of the vehicle already.
All right, gotta go to bed. 1 a.m.
All right.
Not quite
Take
as
care,
late as it is for Ryan, but
Yeah. See ya.
talk to you later.
All right. See everyone in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Hawk, are you about for a few more minutes? I just want to run something by you quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know whether you saw the messages I sent you earlier on.
Let me check. To my email or to Facebook?
On the Zoom.
Oh, Zoom. Oh yeah. Let me stop recording unless there's anything anybody wants to capture in the video.
No.